Ever wonder about the wild secrets behind music legends? You've absolutely got to hear the story about this American soul legend. A story of tragedy, scandals, love affairs, and of course great music. The life of Marvin Gaye. April 1st, 1984. A day that should have been a celebration of life became a tragic end to a legend's journey. Behind these heavy wooden doors, a storm was brewing. A voice that captivated millions was caught in a final, desperate argument. Marvin Gaye Sr. stood tall, a silhouette of rigid authority and simmering resentment, pointing a finger at his own flesh and blood. Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Soul, stepped back. His eyes, once full of melody, were now clouded with pain and utter exhaustion. In the silence that followed the shots, only a discarded housecoat remained on the floor, a symbol of a life cut short. But before the silence, there was the sound. To understand the tragedy, we must return to where the music began, Washington, D.C., the 1940s. A modest storefront church served as the sanctuary for a young boy with a heavenly gift. Inside, young Marvin found his escape. His voice soared above the congregation, a pure light in a world of strict discipline. But even in the house of God, there was no peace. His father watched from the organ, seeing sin in every soulful note. It was a childhood caught between the love of music and the fear of the man who claimed to represent the Almighty. The sanctuary often felt like a storm. Marvin's singing became a plea for a grace he rarely felt at home. As the years passed, the boy grew, but the conflict remained. He sought a new rhythm, one that belonged to him alone. He traded the hymnal for drumsticks, finding his heartbeat in the smoky jazz clubs of the city. He played with a precision that bordered on obsession, his hands a blur of motion as he drowned out the noise of his past. But the back of the stage couldn't hold him forever. The drummer was destined to be the lead. He stepped forward, adjusting his suit jacket, shedding the skin of the choir boy and the background musician. The Prince of Soul was taking shape. Every note he sang was a defiance of the man who told him his music was sinful. His talent was a beacon, pulling him away from the shadows of Washington and toward the Motor City. Detroit was waiting, a place where his voice would finally find the stage it deserved. Hitsville, U.S.A., the birthplace of a revolution and the new home for a man escaping his own history. As the doors opened to Motown, Marvin Gaye was no longer just a son or a drummer. He was becoming a legend. Detroit, 1961. A modest house on West Grand Boulevard was about to change the world. This was Hitsville, U.S.A., the heartbeat of Motown Records. Into this whirlwind of rhythm and ambition stepped a young man named Marvin Gaye. He didn't start as a frontman. He started behind the drum kit. The hallways were electric, filled with the sound of master tapes spinning and the constant hum of creative genius at work. Marvin was a session musician, a drummer with a secret dream of being the next Nat King Cole. But Berry Gordy had other plans for him. Berry Gordy, the visionary architect of the Motown sound, saw a star. He saw a man who could lead the charts and capture the nation's heart. The transition from the drum stool to the microphone wasn't just a step, it was a transformation. The hit machine was about to start grinding. Success came fast. Hits like Stubborn Kind of Fellow put his face on record covers across the country, but the pressure was immense. Inside the booth, Marvin wrestled with his identity. He wanted the sophistication of jazz, but Motown demanded the energy of pop. Every note was scrutinized. Every performance was polished until it shone with the signature Motown gloss, sometimes at the cost of Marvin's own artistic peace. By the mid-60s, Marvin Gaye wasn't just a singer, he was Motown royalty. His marriage to Anna Gordy cemented his place at the top of the empire. They were the quintessential power couple, surrounded by the elite of the Detroit music scene. But behind the glamour, the shadows were growing. Marvin often felt like a prisoner of his own success. The expectations of the Gordy family and the relentless pace of Hitsville began to take their toll. He sought solace in collaboration. The golden duets brought a new kind of magic to his career, blending his voice with the brightest stars of the label. Songs like Ain't No Mountain High Enough defined an era, but as the music swelled, a sense of isolation remained beneath the surface. The Prince of Motown had everything the world could offer, yet he was still searching for a voice that was truly his own. As the 60s drew to a close, the sound of Detroit was changing, and so was Marvin. The journey was only just beginning. 1970, Detroit. The world is burning outside the Motown hit factory. Marvin Gaye sits in the shadows, a man caught between two worlds. The charts demand love songs, but the streets are screaming for justice. Everywhere he looks, the headlines tell a story of pain and division. Vietnam, civil rights. The news flickers across his face, a blue light in the dark. The Prince of Motown can no longer ignore the noise. His hands, once used to keep the upbeat rhythm of pop hits, now tremble. He realizes he can't keep singing about romance while brothers are dying. Marvin steps into the recording booth, but this time he's not following a script. He's carrying a vision that will change everything. Huddled in a hazy, smoke-filled room, he gathers musicians who feel the same fire. The air is thick with the scent of rebellion and creation. He layers his own voice over and over, creating a gospel chorus of himself. A haunting, multi-track symphony of the soul begins to take shape. He hits a chord on the piano, a dissonant, beautiful question. He isn't just making a record, he is conducting the atmosphere of an entire generation. The sound is different, complex, jazzy, and raw. It defies the Motown formula. Marvin knows he is risking his career for this singular truth. The tension moves from the studio to the executive office. Marvin stands before the man who built the empire, Berry Gordy. A demo tape sits on the mahogany desk like a live grenade. Gordy looks at it with skepticism, fearing it will alienate the fans. They call the song the worst thing they ever heard, but Marvin refuses to back down. He tells Gordy, "Release it, or I never sing again." It's a standoff between artistic integrity and corporate survival. Marvin's eyes are fixed, determined to let the world hear the message. Finally, the needle drops on the vinyl. 1971. The airwaves are flooded with a sound no one expected, but everyone needed. On the street corners of Detroit, people stop in their tracks. The smooth, soulful plea for understanding cuts through the city noise. A young man leans against a brick wall, eyes closed, letting the lyrics wash over him. "Mother, mother, there's too many of you crying." In the barbershops and the living rooms, the message resonates. Music has become a bridge between the studio and the very heart of the struggle. The anthem spreads like wildfire, proving that the public was ready for the truth. Marvin Gaye has transitioned from singer to visionary. He walks through the park in Detroit, the weight of the silence finally lifted. He is observant, peaceful, a man who found his purpose. As the sun sets over the city skyline, the legacy of what's going on remains, a timeless reminder that we must always seek the truth. The lights of the arena are blinding, a stark contrast to the shadow that follows Marvin Gaye when the music stops and the curtains close. Behind the sequins and the legendary smile, a prince was falling. Tax debts and court papers began to bury the man beneath the myth. He was the Prince of Soul, yet he felt like a prisoner to his own genius and the demons that whispered in the quiet hours. To save his life, he had to leave the noise behind. He traded the roar of America for the cold grey silence of Europe. In Ostend, the air was sharp and the coastline was unforgiving. It was a place where a man could disappear or be found. He found discipline in the unexpected. Helping a local boxer train, Marvin traded the chaos of addiction for the rhythm of the ring. The isolation was a cocoon. In a modest apartment lit by a single lamp, the Prince of Soul began to experiment with a new sound. A new electronic heartbeat started to pulse through his music. It was sleek, modern, and filled with a desperate kind of hope. 1982 arrived, and with it a transformation. The weary traveler was gone, replaced by a man with a sharp suit and a sharper vision. Inside the vibrant recording studio, the tension was thick. But when Marvin stepped to the mic, the room fell into a hypnotic grace. With the first lines of Sexual Healing, the world knew he was back. The melancholy had turned into absolute, smooth confidence. From the stages of London to the television sets of America, the resurrection was complete. Marvin Gaye was once again at the summit. He stood on the balcony of his new life, the city lights reflecting in his sunglasses. a Grammy Award finally in his hand. It was his final peak, a moment of pure musical triumph before the shadows of the past began their final reach. The music slows, the heartbeat fades, and all that remains is the timeless voice of a man who conquered his art, if not himself. In the quiet hallways of a house in Los Angeles, the air hung heavy with a tension that had been building for years. Marvin Gaye, the Prince of Soul, stood weary and vulnerable, his housecoat a stark contrast to the stage sequins of his past. Opposite him stood his father, a man of God whose stern exterior masked a volatile spirit that now neared its breaking point. Their relationship, a complex tapestry of love and resentment, had finally reached the end of the line in this cold hallway. Shadows stretched like dark omens as the domestic sanctuary turned into a stage for a final, tragic confrontation. It wasn't just a clash of wills, but the climax of a lifelong struggle for approval and inner peace. As the tension reached its breaking point, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the inevitable silence to follow. Then, the screen fades to white, sparing us the sight of the tragedy, leaving only the weight of what was lost. April 1st, 1984. The sun rose over Los Angeles, but the warmth did not reach the hearts of those who knew. Yellow tape fluttered in the soft breeze outside the home, a clinical marker of the chaos that had transpired within. Fans began to gather, their faces etched with disbelief, holding vinyl records close like sacred relics of a fallen king. Candles were lit, their flickering flames mirroring the fragile nature of the life that had just been extinguished. In the quiet, we remember him not as he fell but as he lived, radiant under the spotlight, pouring his soul into the microphone. The grand orchestral swells of his life settled into a single, haunting piano melody, echoing the profound void left behind. From the sharp-suited drummer of the early 60s to the bearded prophet who asked, "What's going on?" Marvin was a man of evolution. In Detroit, his image adorns the brick walls, a permanent fixture of the city that helped forge his legendary sound. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame shines bright, a testament to a career that transcended the boundaries of genre. Today, a new generation of artists sits in studios wearing headphones, dissecting his master tapes to find the secret of his magic. He was more than a singer. He was a social conscience, a voice for the marginalized and a healer for the broken-hearted. The man is gone, but the sound remains, a timeless resonance that vibrates through the very fabric of modern music. A golden record spins on a vintage turntable, the needle tracing the grooves of a legacy that will never fade. The light of the afternoon sun bathes the room, celebrating a life that was as complex as it was beautiful. We look out over the vibrant city at sunset, realizing that his music is the heartbeat of these very streets. The curtain falls on this chapter, but the Prince of Soul lives on in every note, every lyric, and every soul he touched. As the final note echoes, we hear his gentle whisper, a final benediction for a world he tried so hard to change. Peace. Thanks for joining us in the bar tonight. We hope you enjoyed these stories behind the legends. Marvin Gaye was an absolute legend of soul music. He was taken from us way too soon, but his music certainly lives on. Please like and subscribe to help us improve our channel. Stay tuned for our next episode. See you next time.